Today's conversation combines a few things that I happen to be very passionate about: giving back and wine. My guest is Kristen Shroyer, who's one of the co-founders of my favorite wine company, ONEHOPE Wine, a Napa Valley winery whose one hope is to bring together a community that makes the world better through memorable wine and experiences. To date, the company has donated, get this, over $5 million to causes around the world. And we're going to dig into the topic of cause marketing and why ONEHOPE as a company believes that giving back is good business. Today, I am so excited to have this guest join me, and not just because she loaded me up with wine in preparation for this interview. I have the pleasure of chatting today with Kristen, who has become a friend over the last year and is one of the co-founders of my absolute favorite wine company called ONEHOPE. So Kristen, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to see you on my screen.
I know. I just still remember back to when I realized that one of the ONEHOPE founders lived right in Arizona, where a lot of you know that's where I live. And this is a company that I had followed for a while, not just because I love wine, but also because I loved the heart of the company, which is giving back. And I'm going to have you share a whole lot more about that. But for those of you who don't know, ONEHOPE donates to a range of different charities. And I'll have Kristen share just how that business model really came about. So like, for example, you can't see if you're watching the YouTube version, you can see I have a bottle of my favorite, the sparkling wine, the Brut. And it says on the label, this bottle helps fund healthy meals to end hunger. So if drinking wine wasn't satisfying enough, you know that like you're helping to end world hunger by doing it.
Yes, absolutely.
So take us back to the birth of this company, because it's a cool story how you and some friends came together to create ONEHOPE. So what inspired it, and what were those early days like?
Yeah, so I started working for Gallo Wine Company, which is the largest winery in the world. I think 1 in 4 bottles of wine purchased in the US is a Gallo product, which is really interesting. So I went to University of Arizona, and they came to the career fair, and they're so smart because we've all been to career fairs. So there's table after table just with companies, and they just fill their table with wine. And so naturally, being a college student, I was gravitated to talk to this table. And I interviewed with them, and they offered me a job to work in Newport Beach, California. So, I mean, love Tucson, but after being there for 4 years, if somebody offers you a job to work and live in Newport Beach, California, you're like, please sign me up. That sounds amazing. So I started working for Gallo, and Gallo is really smart because they get these kids right out of college, eager, ready to change the world. And your first job with Gallo, everybody usually starts in the same spot, which is selling wine in high volume grocery stores in California. And for anyone that lives in a place that sells wine in grocery stores, sometimes during holidays, there'll be 300, 400, 500 cases of wine merchandised in the grocery store. And I did that. And it was really, really hard because you have to lift all these cases. You have to, build the display. I had a box cutter and a feather duster. I started at 3 a.m. It was pretty interesting, but it was there at Gallo that I met some other amazing individuals that I didn't know it at the time, but would be my future co-founders at ONEHOPE. And it was our first October selling wine in grocery stores when we really saw cause marketing really surge. And so this was a long time ago. This would have been, October 2005, so almost 15 years ago. And so we just saw a lot of cause marketing for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So products from Milano cookies to pink Tic Tacs, everything was kind of going pink. And so here we were selling wine. For Gallo, we thought, well, first of all, why isn't there a wine that's giving back? Because just like we were talking about, wine is such a fun product to be able to support causes with. And then how come at the end of October, everything went away when this cause obviously was not and needed a lot more support? And then we looked at some of these really big name companies that were setting caps on what they'll donate. And we just thought there should be no caps on what you donate. Giving should be something that's built into the DNA of your company, and that's something that you do every year. And so we were 23 23, 24, felt fearless, I remember we always met at the Yard House at happy hour, because since we started our job at 3 a.m, we were done by like 2:30, 3 o'clock. And so yeah, I just remember being at happy hour, us talking about, wow, we should start our own wine company. I mean, how hard could that be, right? We were young and fearless, and slowly but surely, we kind of started to get the guts to do it. At that time, I had moved up to Napa and Sonoma to work in tasting rooms, and I got the call from Jake, who's now our CEO, and he had a close friend diagnosed with cancer at the age of 23, and it was just his eye-opening moment, like, you know what, we've talked about this for too long. If we're going to do it, let's do it today. And so we all quit our jobs. I moved back down to Southern California, and we bought 168 cases from a small little custom crush facility in Sonoma County, and literally drove it down in a U-Haul ourselves and started selling wine out of the backs of our cars, which was illegal and we didn't even know it. Apparently, like, we have to sell wine through a licensed distributor. We very quickly found out, but that was just kind of the birth of our company. But we started with 3 wines. Our Chardonnay is always given towards the fight against breast cancer, Merlot towards the fight against AIDS, and then our Cabernet has always supported children with autism to fund ABA therapy. And then slowly but surely, we just started we got a distributor, so we started doing things a little legally. And then we just started opening up new states. And so that's what brought me back to Arizona, because I'm born and raised here. And starting a company, not getting a paycheck, I was like, hey guys, I'll move back to Arizona, live with my parents. We could talk about that later and how fun that was. But it's the best thing I ever did. And now I've been out here ever since, because I'm just on airplanes all the time and calling on new places and opening up new markets for us.
I love, and you so eloquently shared the beginning. And I think that's the part that's so difficult, especially as a company grows. OneHope is now doing massive things in the world, donated over $5 million to causes at this point. Mm-hmm. And very few people get to see that view of those crazy kids who quit their jobs, and some moved back home with mom and dad to sell wine illegally out of the trunk. And there's so many women in our community who are at that beginning stage where they're like, what am I doing? Was there ever that moment for you that you were like, is this crazy? Or did it always feel like it was leading to something bigger?
There's definitely some moments where we felt like, is it crazy? I think just because wine is such a competitive industry. And I remember, so we finally got a distributor, and we came from the distribution side. So we worked for Gallo, we worked for the Gallo distributor, and we sold tons of wine. So we thought the day that we got a distributor, like, that's it, we've made it. Mm-hmm. Time to retire, right? Like, OneHope has made it. And so we got our sales report from our first month with our distributor, which was November, which is a very busy sales season for wine. And this distributor in the entire state of California, I think they sold 11 cases for us. So we're like, okay, we have not made it. We still have a long way to go. We quickly realized that you obviously can't rely on anybody to sell your product. You have to do it yourself and really advocate for it. So there's definitely been some hiccup moments. I think every business owner's had those moments. Oh, am I going to make payroll this month? And just being worried about certain things. But the $5 million donation milestone we hit was really special, because we were all talking about it as founders, and how our very first donation check we wrote, at the time we had worked with Susan G. Komen, and we got one of those really big checks, because we were so proud of it. And we had donated, I think it was $2,430. And we were so cheap at the time that rather than giving each nonprofit their own check, we got a dry erase board. So that way we could write it in, and then as soon as we got our picture with Susan G. Komen, we could erase it and then go to Autism Care Today. But I remember dropping that check off, and we were so proud. And then we looked up on the wall, and Yoplait had just done, Yoplait Yogurt had given them, $35,000 or whatever it was to the local Orange County one, and thinking, okay, like, we started, we're so proud of this, and we'll just keep on growing. And so that $5 million mark was really exciting for us, because we were all reflecting to that. I don't want to say small check, because any check is great, but to go from $2,000 in donations to over $5 million was pretty awesome.
I love that so much. And we were just sharing about this in the community this last week, about how I think it's crucial, and I would love to hear your take on this, to, as you're building, stop and recognize those things that seem like small achievements. Especially if you have a really big vision, it can be easy to just have the attitude of like, okay, check, on to the next goal, rather than to pause and be like, this is a moment we're going to look back on. This is something that we're going to celebrate when we get to those bigger milestones. So I want to hear your take on that, because clearly that's been a part of your journey too.
Yeah. And I have to continuously remind myself to do that. There was a really special moment we had a couple months ago. A few of our cause entrepreneurs that wanted an incentive trip, we all met up at Atlas Peak, which is one of the highest points in Napa Valley. And Jake, our CEO, he's just such a great speaker. And he was talking about, how you're always climbing up the mountain. And sometimes you think you're at the top, and then the clouds set a little bit and there's more. But how it's just so important to turn around and admire the view and just really appreciate how far you've come and all those great milestones that are there. And so we try to do that as much as possible. My founding team, there's 6 of us. It's weird. Like, not too many companies have that many founders, and especially ones that still really get along and like each other. And they really are my family, my brothers and sisters. And so we laugh at how much fun and how well we still get along with each other. But we try to make a point to have founders calls now once a month, and just to talk about, current things going on with the business, but just to reflect and be, appreciate all what we've done and where we've come, and some great milestones that we've hit.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because it was something I wanted to ask about, your relationship with your co-founders. Because as you said, there's 6 of you total, right? Or is there 7? 6
There's 6 of us,
including you.
Yep.
And I've heard a lot of horror stories about business partnerships that imploded with just 2 people.
Yep.
How do you attribute that success to the fact that you do genuinely like each other as human beings, and that the company continues to thrive? Because that is really rare. What do you think attributes to that?
Yeah, I think we've just always trusted each other. Like, I trust them so much, and we always have each other's back. In the beginning, when there was so few of us and there was so much to do, it was kind of fun to see how Jake always talks about, like, you got to get the right people on the bus. And then once the right people are on the bus, you got to put them in the right seat to figure out what's great. So it was kind of funny, like, since day one, the women have always been like the sales gurus of the business, and we've done that. And Tom's always been our finance guy, and he's the oldest, so he's the most responsible for our like finance, HR, and it's just I just think it's just trust and respect, and there's good times, there's bad times, but we've always had each other's back, and always known that everybody is looking out for the business with the best of heart, and even if you disagree with something that they're saying, that they have the best of intentions.
I heard that exact message in, I think it was like a church sermon relating to marriage, about just, and I always thought it applies so much to business too, that at the end of the day, if you choose to see someone is operating always from a place of a good intention, it's really hard. It actually dissipates disagreement or frustration so much faster. And I've carried that through. I think I heard that over 10 years ago. And I think about it all the time now with my growing team and other, especially in times where things are tense. If I choose to look at it from a standpoint of, okay, if I choose to see that this person is actually operating with the best intentions, then there must be a good reason for why XYZ happened or they said that thing. So I love that. I love that you said that.
I love that you said it about marriages too. I need to, next time if there's ever a tip, which we don't really have too often, but I need to tell myself, like, Brad, you have the best of intentions. Yep.
Yeah, it has. I mean, of course, we weren't planning to like go here in this area, but it's. I think there are a lot of women in our community who are either married or would like to be someday. And I tell you what, I'm the one who has had to implement it the most. Where so Elliot and I have been married now 9 years, going on 10, and there's times where I was the one who was the asshole and like unintentionally said something that just really triggered him. And I always had to go back to like looking him in the eyes and saying, you know me and you know my heart. I know that was such an a-hole thing to do, and that wasn't my intention. And for us, that has been like a through line that has dissipated disagreements faster than anything else.
Totally. Because when you're in that mindset, you're like, I'm right. Like, there's no, you're wrong. I am right. And women are right most of the time,
I
right?
mean, we know it, so we don't have to
Yes,
say it. Yeah.
right, exactly. But no, that's so good.
Oh, well, there you go, everyone. Bonus relationship advice for you,
Yes.
unsolicited.
We're going on 10 years. We're actually going to celebrate our 10-year anniversary next week. So
No
we're
way.
right along the same line as you.
Oh, how fun. Ours is
Yeah.
in December, so you're just a little bit ahead of us.
Oh,
How
fun.
fun.
Happy
So,
anniversary.
same to you. And that actually brings up the next thing I wanted to ask you about, because not only, so you mentioned in your current role with the company, you are traveling a lot and you're also married. You're the mom of two beautiful girls. So, what has that been like, growing a business and also staying present as a mom?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure it out. There's definitely some challenging moments. Luckily, I mean, Brad is super supportive, and another perk of living in my home state is I'm close by grandparents, which are awesome to help out with. But I really had to evaluate. I remember you were talking about something on a previous podcast too about just like, is it worth me to go? Because I'm such a yes person. I know you are too. And you want to, if you get the meeting, it's like yes. And now it's just about evaluating. It's okay. Even though I got the meeting, like, is it something I can't just handle over on a phone call? And I really tried to, if I am flying away, if I am missing something, just questioning, is it worth it? Is it worth missing that soccer game? Is it worth stressing out? Because whenever I do leave, I know it's very stressful for Brad, and because whenever it's crazy when you leave, when you try to instruct somebody to do all the things that you do every day, it's crazy. Like we are going out of town for our anniversary, and my mother-in-law is here to help, and I'm making my list, and it's a long list. It's crazy, all the little things you have to do. So I don't know. I guess I always just have to say, okay, is it important? Is it worth it? And lots of times it is. And I just have a really supportive team to help me out all the time.
Yeah. Do you involve your girls in what you're doing, or meaning, do you share with them like, hey, mom's going out of town and here's why? Like, how much do they know about just really what a badass their mom is?
Oh, you're so nice. Well, it's funny. I mean, they know now that I sell wine. And so when a lot of times in school, they'll do surveys and the teachers are like, "Ooh, your mom sells wine. That sounds so exciting." I did get a big map for Jessica, for my oldest. So I'll always point to her on a map where I'm going to go. And
Oh,
I will kind of
cool.
tell her what I'm doing. And, God bless FaceTime and everything now too, because we do that quite a bit. And it's fun whenever I am traveling somewhere. That's one thing I do. If I'm in a new city, I won't just like stay in my hotel or go to the meeting. I will try to, like, I was in Miami, and it was a quick turnaround trip, but I had to dip my toes in the Atlantic. So I took an Uber, and he's like, okay, you got to get a frozen drink here. So I got my frozen drink, and I just went, I'm like, I have to just put my toes in the Atlantic Ocean while I'm here. And I was in St. Louis. I'm like, I have to see the Ark, and take a FaceTime with the family so they can see that too. So I try to, enjoy those moments, because there has been some pretty cool parts of the country and the world I've been able to see through my job, and try to share that with the girls as well.
Oh, that's beautiful. Because it would be so easy to say, oh, I got to get back for the flight, but I think that's a beautiful way to make them feel included, even though it is time that you spend away from them physically. What a cool way to have them start to see the world too.
Yeah. And I try to
I
get little
love that.
postcards and stuff too, which is fun that's my because souvenirs get expensive at those airports. You try to get a little teddy bear and it's $25. So postcards are always a fun little easy thing I'll pick up for them.
Oh, I love that so much. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit more about really the heart and the ethos behind One Hope, which is, I love how even in your bio, I want to read it like word for word. The company was founded on the idea that giving back is good business. And I think for a lot of us starting businesses or building passion projects, we love the idea of giving back. That's a no-brainer. But talk a little bit about why you do believe that it's good business and what you've seen from your own perspective, obviously building this company.
Yeah, I mean, we think a dollar donated goes a lot farther than a dollar spent on advertising or certain ways. And it's really interesting how sometimes donations then kind of create this snowball effect, right? Where you get teamed up with a nonprofit, you make a donation, and then they get excited about One Hope, and then they spread your message to other people. I just think it's so important, because today's problems can't be solved just by people donating alone. It has to be solved by, I think, the brains behind businesses. And it's really cool. I think when we started this, how long has it been now? 12, 13 years. This is before the days of Tom Shoes. We just got inspired by cause marketing campaigns and how to elevate those into cause brands. And now there's so many cause brands out there, which is so great. I think more and more companies are starting to incorporate that into what they do. So for anyone watching, I think find something that you're passionate about, that aligns with your business and what rings true, and just find whatever you can do. There's so many different ways that you can incorporate giving back into your business.
Yeah, I love that. And I actually think it's the perfect segue to talk about something that when I heard you had this part of your business as far as OneHope, it made so much sense to me, which is your cause entrepreneurs and that program. So talk a little bit about what it is and then how that evolved. Because as you know, I came from a direct sales network marketing background, and I love that business model. I think it just empowers the everyday person to get involved, even if they might not ever start that company and do it in the way that you have.
Totally. Well, yeah, I love how it just came about so organically too. Cause like I mentioned, we had came from selling wine in grocery stores, and we thought this was going to be a grocery store brand. And as the brand started to evolve, even before the first couple years, it really kind of started going more into restaurants and hotels, because people could kind of tell that our message. And because when you're a wine on a grocery store shelf, there's only so much you can really learn about it. And then when we started 12 years ago, we could only direct ship to 4 states. So there really wasn't so much direct to consumer business going on, just because direct to consumer wine laws were not so much in our favor. Even here in Arizona, I think it just green-lighted about 3 years ago. But we did have so many people come up say like, I love your wine. I love that it gives back. How can I get involved? We had so many people that just wanted to work for us because they always wanted to work in the wine industry. And so as we started to open up more and more states, we started to do just in-home wine tasting fundraisers where people could, pour our wine for people inside the comfort of their homes and share all the wines and the causes that we support, and then fundraise for causes that they love. And then it just naturally kind of started a snowball, and people, once we could direct ship to 43 states, our Cause Entrepreneur program really kind of skyrocketed.
Oh.
So we're trying to bring that great Napa Valley wine tasting experience into people's homes, and give this opportunity to people to get their toe into the wine industry. We do a lot of great training, an amazing community of probably like 99% women that are just there to, whether it's they want to get into wine, whether it's that they want to incorporate giving back into what they're already doing. We have a lot of, full-time real estate agents, wedding photographers, whatever it is, and they just want to incorporate giving back into what they do. And what's so fun about wine is it's a conversation starter, right? Because when people are drinking and just getting together, they're naturally getting together to talk about things. And so it's a great conversation starter and lead into the other businesses as well.
And I think that's what I love most about it. I haven't seen any other companies incorporating this model so well in a way that fits seamlessly with what someone else is already doing. Meaning, it doesn't have to be that their full-time thing. It can complement so many different avenues, and I love it. I love wine. I love that sales model. So when I heard you share about that, I was obsessed. So if people are curious about finding out more about that program, where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, so they can go to onehopewine.com. There's a join tab right on our homepage. And then for anyone that's listening, we can offer $25 off a starter kit as well with the promo code Powerhouse Women as well.
Oh, awesome. That's so generous. And I'll make sure to include that in our show notes so that everyone can just even direct link to that. And we'll have the promo code there for you to use too. I just love any chance I get to talk with you. I truly do. And
you're the same. You're just a ray of sunshine. And I love listening to your podcast. And Arizona is so lucky to have you. And this community is so lucky to have you too.
Oh, well, the feeling is so mutual. And I always love to end on one question, because this platform is so beautiful to get to show other women what's possible through the stories and experiences of others. So for the woman who is listening today, and let's even just go back to that woman who's in the early beginnings of her passion project, her dream. She's the Kristen who is slinging wine out of the back of her car. And you had just one message to share with her to help, to really encourage her to take that next step on her journey, what would you say?
I would say just keep putting one foot in front of the other and stay true to your vision. There's going to be a lot of people that say, oh, you're never going to make it in this industry. I don't know if, that business model, it's not going to work here. But when you're just stay true to your vision and bring a community of people around you that lift and inspire you, just like this awesome community does. There's nothing that you can't do,
I love that. So true. And thank you so much for spending some time with me today. Thank you even more for the wine.
Of course. Yeah, I know. I have a little bit left over. You know what, when one bottle isn't enough, but two is too many? That was that situation last night with Brad and I. So I have a little bit left over of this Pinot Noir here. So I'm going to pour a little taste, and I'm going to toast to everyone listening.
Relatable. Oh, I love that. Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.